and then what's next? So there's a nervousness or restlessness here. I don't belong here, I don't belong here, I got to get out of here, this isn't working. Or he would respond, anytime there's negative energy, he would respond strongly to it. Anytime there's positive, he would respond positively to it too. So you can't yet the aspect determine how the person's chart, so we just see a certain stress factor there. If you're talking to a person you're working with, you have to talk on the Sun Mars in the 5th house, which is a good thing, and he has to be, the effort is to be consistent, which it's in Aquarius, in a fixed sign, to follow his ideas, be consistent, to work on something. You can see him working on an album, building up things, doing things. And maybe it comes in as a shocking value that comes in on top of it, the ability to shock people, and so it depends on the team or on the group. But that Sun Mars in the 5th house has a crave for a musician. That's pretty good. That you think drumming or you think guitar, you got the something, you're playing something and people can respond to you. That's nice. When someone has a rising chart, they're projecting out what they're doing, but they're not really dealing with the response to other people so much. Here's more immediate sense of response. And then there's negative response, he would be affected by it immediately. So he'd work hard to not try and let that happen. But it does imply, even with career or with work, the career is in the midheaven is in Gemini, but the Sun being your confidence, what you've done, it means there's probably big changes or a lot of changes in his life here, there. Like I met him here in Canada. He lives in Pakistan. He has his band, or he recently saw pictures of him in Thailand. Like he's moves around the world. In a very cosmopolitan sense. Okay, so now his moon's in Libra. Need to share, need to have nice things, need to be comfortable, sometimes indecisive, but it's in the moon in the 2nd house and the Uranus in the 2nd house. The moon implies money that's up and down. It fluctuates like the moon, it's up and down. And the Uranus implies unconventional money. It's going to come from unconventional source. And both of these mean that money is always an unreliable factor. It suddenly comes, suddenly goes, suddenly. It's a changeable factor, which he would always be working hard to deal with. So you can see, trying to do a performance, a gig costs a lot of money. Set up a big concert, pull it off, and then how much comes out of it? But it does suit someone that would be working a career where just traveling around and being in different places, not just stuck in one, not just staying in one place. So he does have the middle with this is nice, but he has the Sun with the Uranus. And the Mars. I want to be out of here. I can't just stay here. So he has that trigger point. But the Moon is squared by Jupiter. So this is interesting. The Jupiter's in the 11th house of friends and groups. So that could be like the band. So that's a kind of band leader would be good, but there might be big changes, different people coming in and out of the band sometimes. But the demands on the travel and trying to organize everybody to be able to travel, that could be the Jupiter Moon. But there could be a struggle with mom or family a struggle with understanding. Why do you have those friends? Why aren't you just doing like this? Why aren't you just being like this? And there could be some struggle, like trying to understand family. And the past is always going to be a bit of puzzle with the Jupiter. It's not that bad. It's not a horrible aspect. It's not, but it's still there. There's a tendency to overdo or overindulge or spend too much. So, okay. But the Moon is conjunct, it's wide 10 degrees, but it's still conjunct Pluto. So there is ability to control this and control the Moon and hold things together if he has to, whenever he has to. Yep. But there's no, one of the interesting things in his chart, his Neptune's in the 3rd house. It's good for imagination or writing or dreaming or traveling, but there's no bad aspects to it. The only bad aspect you could say, yes, it would be the opposition to the midheaven. It tends to make him not want to do regular straight jobs or fixed jobs, that Gemini on the midheaven, and opposed by Neptune. I don't want to do this, I do this. It aligns him to want to be the artist or social worker, be doing other things. A little stronger, it would probably show us some confusion between what he's doing and what his father would expect. So he might have difficulty dealing with authority, other people's authority. And then where's the Saturn? The Saturn's in the 12th house. I got that too. So that's a tendency to have a difficult relationship with the father and authority. And so, okay, I don't usually jump up just a Saturn, but just as a rulership, it comes along. So it's ascendant, it's Virgo. It's ruled by the Mercury, which is Mercury, Sun, Mars. That's all. Mercury and Sun is conjunct. That's good. It's opposed by Saturn, which makes him cautious. There's a practical side here, a cautious side, but it probably means that his father probably may not have talked to him that much, or there's a inhibition in his talking to his father. Around doing things, there's not a problem. In terms of talking to his father, being respected for ideas, he might have some complex about it. He's always trying to fix that or improve that, or feeling haunted by it. It's the Mercury in Pisces. So he has the Mercury in Pisces imagination, but it's somewhat cautioned or restrained by the Saturn father job, whatever. There's a worry element in there. So, okay, so like, he's a doer. He's got to do things. The question becomes how much education, or how far does he go with his education, or how far does he take things with his mind? He's still going to be active and doing things. Being creative is a really good idea. Now, so the Mercury, that's sixth house. That's you work with your mind. You're using things to idea. That's the part of him that could be writing or composing. It tends to be worrisome. Tend to be a little bit more practical, but the Sun Mars is really pushy and assertive, so they kind of pile up in his way of responding. Neptune's in the third house, so you wonder. It's a question of how much education he gets or what he gets. Bit of a puzzle there. That doesn't mean like his chart really points to getting. If he had the more creative education he gets, the more brilliant his chart gets, or the more mystical expressions he gets, the stronger he gets. But it probably involves challenges with the family. So the Mercury, the Virgo rising, the identity, self-critical, analytical, it ties into the Pisces Mercury and the Saturn. So there's, I just call it a caution there. It's very creative, but he would keep a lid on it. He might not talk about it that much. So, yeah, Venus is in Capricorn, again, ruled by Saturn. Sun, Venus, Mars, all ruled by Saturn in the 12th house. So the 12th house is difficult to be. One can be ambitious, but often one feels, why bother? It's like it ties up to dad, to being appreciated by dad. Here, someone wants to be respected by dad, and the dad probably doesn't talk to him that much. Or if he does, there's a need to prove it. He's the traditional, whereas the son's a bit more radical and not quite so traditional. So not likely to live up exactly to dad's ideas. For me, it was like, took a long time from like, when I get a real job. Like I never worked for anybody. I've always done astrology. So it's like I had challenge. My dad at some point gave me, and then he turned around, didn't bother me so much, but it was an issue there. I don't know how his plays out. We can sort of sense that a little bit. But the Pluto squares his Venus. So his Venus is there. He wants the appreciation. He's motivated by appreciation. He wants to be appreciated. All of the input, he takes, reacts, he responds to people. Pisces on his descendant takes things in, and then he takes it personally, wants to do something, wants to fix things, wants to do things. Why? He wants to be appreciated. So if someone likes him or appreciates him, he's going to work really hard. If someone likes the band, he's going to play great. He's going to do the extra set. He's going to be pumped. But if there's some restraint around it or some worry around it, he can still play. But there's a fear of being appreciated too, a fear of love coming from the Pluto square. I got to hold together like this. Was it good enough? A fear of not being good enough, maybe. He can do a lot of things, but his feeling of his style is that maybe there's always a challenge to improve the quality and the style of what he wants to do. But with Pluto square Venus, it's hard to please, hard to be satisfied. You kind of run into confrontations over what's good or what's bad or what's beautiful, what's not. The musician, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's a kind of good outlet for that. Okay, but the I see is motivation, it's traveling, it's about philosophy, it's about understanding and sharing his understanding with others up in the 11th house. So his ability he's kind of like a preacher, the preacher singer, like a folk musician almost. You get his ideas that like you expect it to be a little bit. I've never heard his music, so it could be a little bit more rock oriented, or it's not going to be passive, but there's going to be stories in it around that. Okay. Now, okay, so we're going to go to the transits. So we look at the transits. It's just, don't mind. You see the planets around the chart. So we can see from his chart, Saturn's in the 12th. It's going to hit the ascendant. So Saturn to the ascendant is going to be within a year of each other. The angles are square. So every 7 years, he's going to have his Saturn things. And the sun's not far from the Saturn opposition either. So we'll see there's a kind of pileup of a year or two of intensity every 7 years as things hit. But his Saturn right now is in Capricorn. He's just finished going over his Venus. Saturn down here. And Pluto went through that, over that just before that, a few years ago. We'll come to this. But you can look at the chart and work it like this. The Mars is just been over his moon. And the sun's in Scorpio. So like the Neptune's in Pisces is not really hitting anything. Not really hitting. It doesn't have deception around it. It is not from, it doesn't have the deception and confusion around. It's more trusting his own imagination enough to be creative with it, and not always to be creative, even things that are not, he might not consider the best, but they might be very profound, but maybe thinks no one would like it, so he wouldn't want to do that song, or the song would, part of the challenge would be to do that. Okay, but let's just, instead of the whole hopscotch, we'll just come back around and we'll go to the Saturn cycles. Natal chart. Okay, we'll go to the Saturn cycles.